Well, hello again. This is Alan St. Jean. Welcome to the Aidan of Oren video podcast. Today we will be reading chapters 17 and 18. The word for the day is theater. Theater. Now I will use it in a sentence. My favorite theater is one in town where they serve pizza. They do. It's great. You sit there, there's a little table, and you can watch the movie, and they can bring a pizza to you. Oh, heaven. I know teachers are thinking by now, maybe he's a little obsessed. I just like pizza. And the fun fact today is the cover of the Aidan of Oren book, right here. See that cover? That is not the first cover. That's not the original cover of the book. When I first wrote the book, the publisher found an illustrator and they drew this picture. So this one right here, this is the original cover of Aidan of Oren. I changed it a few years ago for two reasons. One, because the new artwork looked a little more mysterious, like the story. And the second reason was because I could produce the book in a paperback, which was less expensive. It's only $10 instead of $15. And that formula seemed to work out pretty well. So anyway, let's get started. I need this so I can see you. Actually, I can't see you. I have to read the book. And you know what else? Coffee in my beer cup. And today we will start with chapter 17, which is called, hold on to your seats, Cartha. Okay, here we go. Aidan stood at the base of the twin waterfalls, staring upward in utter awe and amazement. The mist, which he found cool and refreshing, was generated by the tremendous amount of water crashing down onto a giant pile of rocks in front of him. The River of Tears begins here, he said to no one in particular. It's almost as if you can feel the deep and desperate sadness of the mountain, cursed to weep for its lost companion forevermore. Standing here, I know that the mountain is sad. I don't know how I know this, but I do. I believe you, said Mackenzie, but could a dragon really destroy a whole mountain? Aidan did not reply. Aidan, perhaps we should make camp and prepare the food, said Lily. This clearing by the waterfall should work perfectly, and we can use that large rock over by the trees as a table. Yes, good thinking, replied Aidan as he regained his bearings. Charles raised his head from Aidan's collar. Food? Did someone say food? Aidan and Mackenzie helped Lily spread out a blanket on a large rock to unpack. While Lily began to set out the meal she had prepared, Aidan noticed Mackenzie venturing down toward the bank of the river. Don't wander off, Mackenzie, said Aidan as he went after her. I don't want to lose you in the mist. I don't like this place, quivered Charles. Can we leave now? Aidan started to reply when he noticed Mackenzie sitting on the ground taking off her shoes. What are you doing? I'm going into the river, silly, and I don't want to get my shoes wet. I don't know if that's a wise thing to do, cautioned Aidan. This is a strange place, and we really don't know what's in the water. Look at that big fish out there, giggled Mackenzie. I can see the fish down through the clear water, and it's very shallow here. I won't go in past my knees. Mackenzie tossed her shoes aside and splashed into the river. Ooh, the water feels so good. You should join me. Well, as long as the water is clear and shallow, maybe just for a little bit. No, yelled Charles. Not with me on your shoulder. Please put me down, and I'll walk back to camp to supervise the meal preparations. I can protect Lily while the two of you frolic about. Why don't you just fly back, O mighty protector? Asked Aidan as he placed Charles on the ground. That's not funny, sneered Charles. Indeed, it was not funny. Aidan had found Charles a few years earlier at the base of a tree. The baby falcon had fallen out of its nest and was helpless. Aidan took him home to nurture and raised him. To this day, Charles had never even attempted to fly. I'm sorry, Charles, but you know you're going to have to fly one of these days. That's just what birds do. You should not refer to me as a mere bird, quipped Charles. I am a regal falcon. From the royal family of Wingdom, said Mackenzie with a giggle. Snorted Charles as he abruptly turned around, heading toward the clearing to join Lily. Aidan slipped his shoes off and walked slowly into the river to join Mackenzie. The water felt pleasantly cool and silky to the touch. Velvety soft sand lined the river bottom. He watched with amusement as Mackenzie darted back and forth, trying to catch a fish. The river was very shallow at this end and certainly seemed safe. What are you going to do with the fish once you catch him? Aidan asked. I'm going to eat him, said Mackenzie defiantly. I'll take him back for Lily to cook, and I'm going to eat him all up. Aidan smiled at his little friend. If you really want to catch him, you'll need a long stick with a bit of string and a net, and you should take the string and... Got him! Mackenzie proudly pulled a bright yellow fish from the river. What? How did you do that? I just squeezed my hands together and I got him. And now I'm going to... Mackenzie brought the fish to her face. She stood there for a moment, looking deeply into its eyes. Her face went pale. What's wrong, Mackenzie? Did that fish just bite you? No, whispered Mackenzie. We were just talking. He told me that his name was Bernard and that it was all right if we wanted to eat him, but he wants us to know that we need to get out of the water immediately. A chill went down Aidan's spine as he looked around in the water. It was not clear like before. Rather, it was beginning to cloud up and turn red. Aidan quickly snatched Mackenzie out of the water and started carrying her back to the riverbank. He heard a great churning noise coming down the river toward them. The water bubbled and frothed. Aidan could feel countless fish bumping into his legs, desperately trying to get downstream, trying to get away. Almost there, gasped Aidan as he tossed Mackenzie onto the riverbank. Suddenly, a giant water snake with a massive set of fangs lurched out of the water toward Aidan, grabbed his right foot, and pulled him out into the middle of the river. Mackenzie screamed from the bank of the river as she saw the monster drag Aidan underwater. Aidan frantically twisted and turned with all of his might until he broke free from the snake's grip. He gasped for air as he reached the surface and clambered up onto the dry riverbank. He turned toward the river and watched in horror as the great snake swam over to the bank and raised its head out of the water, facing him. "How did you know I was coming?" it hissed. Keeping his gaze directly on the snake, Aidan backed up on the bank. The creature was unlike anything Aidan had ever seen. From its size, Aidan deduced it to be more of a sea serpent than a water snake. It was black as midnight, and it made a horrible hissing sound. Its evil eyes were fixed on Aidan. "Who are you?" Aidan mustered. The great serpent stared intently at him. "I am Cartha," it hissed, now with its head starting to move slightly side to side. "And I know who you are, Aidan of Oren." The deadly serpent hissed again and began to move up onto the bank. Suddenly, it stopped and looked up at Mackenzie, who was now standing defiantly over Aidan. "Is she going to protect you from me?" The great serpent began to laugh hideously. Aidan looked over toward the waterfall. "How long can you stay out of the water, Cartha?" he asked. "Long enough to take care of you." "We will see about that." Even before Aidan could complete his sentence, they were all overcome with a deafening silence. The great waterfall had suddenly stopped. Without its continuous supply of water, the river of tears quickly began to dry up. "What?" exclaimed Cartha. "No!" The great snake quickly headed back into what little water was left, swimming downstream with all of its might in order to avoid certain death. Mackenzie moved over to sit beside Aidan. "What was that creature? How did it know your name?" Aidan was silent. "Did you stop the waterfall?" Again, Aidan said nothing. "Are you all right? Say something." "That was close," he said soberly as he collected himself. "I knew that the water was going to stop. But how?" At that moment, the twin waterfalls were suddenly restored. Water again crashed to the boulders below, replenishing the river. Aidan looked curiously over at Mackenzie. "Why are you still holding on to that fish?" "His name is Bernard. You didn't think I'd just put him back in the river with that awful snake, did you?" "Of course not. I understand. You didn't want to lose out on a tasty fish dinner." Mackenzie looked up with disgust. "We're certainly not going to eat him after he saved our lives." "Oh, that's right. The fish told you we were in danger." Mackenzie looked down at the fish still clutched in her little hands. "You're mocking me," she said softly. "Bernard told me we were in danger, and we were, weren't we?" Aidan softened his tone. "It's just that I didn't hear anything, and I was standing right behind you. I heard him in my head." Aidan had to admit to himself that something was strange about this fish, which did not seem to mind being out of the water. Maybe it was a special, magical fish, but Grandmama's stories did not mention such a creature. Aidan put his hand on Mackenzie's head. "I believe you. It's just a shame that, well, he's such a wonderful fish and all, but we do need food for the long journey. It's just too bad we're going to have to eat him anyway." "No!" shouted Mackenzie. "Bernard saved us. We should let him go." "I was just kidding. We'll let him go. But do you really think he wants to go back into the river with that horrible snake?" Mackenzie stared into the eyes of the fish. "Bernard says it's all right now. The danger is gone." She walked down to the bank of the river and gently placed the fish back into the water and let it go. The fish hovered for a moment in the spot where it was placed, and then swam in a small circle facing Mackenzie. It stopped for a moment as if to say goodbye, and then continued to swim downstream and out of their sight. Aidan and Mackenzie returned to the clearing, where Lily had prepared a great meal. As they ate, they told of their harrowing adventure in the river. They all laughed, except for Charles, who had just finished his cream puff and was walking away. "What's wrong, Charles?" asked Aidan. "Aren't those stories incredible?" "Incredible?" smirked the falcon. "Disappearing mountains, emotional rivers, vampire water snakes, and a telepathic fish. I'd say the stories are a bit more than just incredible, and your imaginations are beginning to get the best of you." Charles found a small tree where, using his claws and his beak, he climbed to the lowest branch. Glancing back at Aidan one more time, Charles managed to utter a slight "hm." He stuck his beak into his back feathers and prepared to take a nap. Yeah, Charles. Okay, so our next chapter is chapter 18, which is called Ooh, the Dead Forest. That's a little scary, right? I'm a little scared. Okay, here we go. Lily and Aidan cleaned up the remnants from their meal and began to set up camp for the night. As Lily turned for her basket, she was startled to find Mackenzie had been standing right behind her. Mackenzie's eyes were wide open. "Mackenzie," exclaimed Lily, "don't sneak up like that. It's not funny." Mackenzie just stood there as if she was staring right through Lily. "What's wrong?" "The trees are coming to get us. They have big claws. I can see them moving." "Stop teasing," said Lily. "This is no time for playing any of your foolish games." "I don't think she's playing," said Aidan. The wind whipped around them as they huddled together at the edge of the forest. "Have you noticed that these trees don't have any leaves?" He whispered. "Their bare branches stretch forward like giant arms." "Are they going to eat us?" Mackenzie asked, her voice shaking. "I don't think so, but they do look hungry, don't they?" Mackenzie turned and playfully kicked at Aidan. "We might be standing at the edge of the dead forest. It is said that the great sitting rock guards the entrance into that forest, but I don't see any great sitting rock." "What about this one?" asked Mackenzie, pointing to the rock they had used as a table. "Maybe this is the great sitting rock." Aidan laughed. "I don't think so. The great sitting rock is just that, a great rock. I'm sure that it's over 10 feet tall. This one is small. Look, it doesn't even come up to my waist. Why, if it were any smaller, I could use it in a game of marbles." "We need to finish setting up camp," said Lily. "It's starting to get dark." "But where's Charles?" Aidan cupped his hands around his mouth and yelled, "Charles!" into the woods. But there was no answer. "Charles!" The dead forest offered only silence. "You don't think the trees got him, do you?" whispered Mackenzie. Could be, but one would think that they would soon grow tired of him and beg us to take him home." "I heard that," said Charles as he walked out of the woods. "Go ahead, make fun, but I found something very interesting in that forest." "You found something interesting in the dead forest?" Lily and Mackenzie said together in horror. "Dead forest!" Charles shrieked as he ran over to Aidan. "What do you mean, dead forest? Aidan, don't just stand there. Pick me up at once." "Don't worry," he said as he reached down for his feathered friend. "I'm sure the forest's bark is worse than its bite." Mackenzie and Lily groaned. As the sun went down, the children built a small fire and sat in a circle around it. In the cool evening air, the warmth from the fire felt good. "It was quite a day," said Aidan as he lifted his left shoe up in front of him. A hole had worn through the tip, revealing one wiggly toe. "You're just lucky the snake didn't get that juicy toe," laughed Lily. "I don't know what you're laughing about," quipped Charles. "If the situation was really as bad as you say it was, you wouldn't be making a jolly ho-ho of it now." "His name was Cartha," added Mackenzie. "Lucky for him I was holding Bernard and not my stick." Everyone laughed, except Charles. "Oh, Charles," said Aidan, "you need to lighten up a little. What happened cannot be changed. Better to make light of it than to fret." "Make light of the situation?" exclaimed Charles. "Tell me this. How did he know your name?" "I don't know. I'm still a bit confused about the whole thing." Charles puffed out his chest. "Well, then, it's a good thing that one of us is mature enough to see that something's just not right here." Aidan reached up and rubbed the back of Charles' neck. Not only did it show appreciation to his feathered friend, it also served another purpose, putting the falcon to sleep. "Maybe Charles has a point," said Lily. "Maybe the hooded man, or whoever sent him, is trying to stop you from fulfilling your destiny." "I'll admit, something about this doesn't feel right," said Aidan. but we may just have to chalk it up to a mystery for now. Speaking of which, I believe I know of another mystery that has been solved. I hear a story coming, squealed Mackenzie. What kind of mystery? Asked Lily. Is this another of your fantasy stories? Actually, this one's real. He reached for his necklace. Remember this? That's the pretty rock I found for you, exclaimed Mackenzie. Lily nodded in agreement. Well, last night, Grandmama told me that the rock we found wasn't even a rock at all. It's a dragon scale. Dragons? Said Lily. That's incredible. That's not all, said Aidan. Grandmama says that the guardians we've heard about were actually dragons. They were the ones that used to live with us and help us make the laws. We have to find them so that the land can be at peace once more. No wonder the Hall of Judges was so big, said Mackenzie. That's right, said Aidan. The elves are the only ones who know where the guardians are. They're going to teach us about the dragons. I want to catch a dragon, exclaimed Mackenzie. What an awesome adventure that would be. Yeah, let's just go catch a dragon. She's cute. All right, and that ends chapter 18 of the Aidan of Oren video podcasts. We will see you next time. Be good, be safe, be kind. Bye now.